This is one of Plankton's many attempts to steal the secret formula.
About any second now.
And this is what happens every time Krabs catches him. But no matter how many times Mr. Krabs throws him out, Plankton never seems to learn his lesson. So today, I'm gonna look over every time that Plankton stole the Krabby Patty secret formula and rank how close he got in each attempt, from plans that suck to taking over the entirety of Bikini Bottom, starting with the time that Plankton tried to use Mr. Krabs' only family member against him. In the episode, Plankton's Intern, Plankton is a functional member of society, only when Karen is around, but on this faithful day, she decided to go see her motherboard. To fill her spot, she put out a help wanted sign for an intern. Many people apply, but quickly leave when they realize that Plankton wanted to pay them sub-minimum wage.
As an intern, you will gain valuable work experience at a sub-minimum wage.
The only one left was Pearl, Mr. Krabs' daughter. Even though Plankton is deathly afraid of whales, he realized that Pearl was the only one actually willing to work for him and hired her. When she came home after her first day, Krabs thought that he was teaching his daughter a good lesson and accidentally dug his own grave. He teaches her that a good employee follows the boss's orders, but this would be the beginning of Mr. Krabs' worst nightmare. Pearl went to Plankton the next day and promptly told him that she could get him the secret formula. That's when Plankton realized that Pearl was Mr. Krabs' daughter and hatched a plan to steal the formula. Pearl then helps Plankton break into the Krusty Krab, but they find Spongebob sleep cooking. Thinking they evaded him, they went into the office, but Spongebob had already called Mr. Krabs. In the meantime, Pearl uses the combination to get the formula out of the safe, but before she could give it to Plankton, Krabs shows up. Pearl literally waves the formula in front of Plankton as she explains everything that happened to her dad, and she ends up leveraging the situation to get triple allowance in exchange for the formula. So close, yet so far for Plankton. Speaking of using family members, Plankton's grandma had a similar idea in Grandmom's The Word. In this episode, Plankton had promised his grandma that he would own the Krusty Krab by her 90th birthday, and that birthday was the next day. She calls him up and pressures Plankton into lying that he had succeeded. This is when he decides to turn to Spongebob to help convince Mr. Krabs to fool his grandma. Mr. Krabs swallows the secret formula bottle to keep it safe for the next 8 hours and orders everyone to pull off the perfect plan: make the restaurant Plankton themed. Plankton's grandmother arrives and falls for the plan, truly believing that Plankton was the owner. She even starts having a crush on Squidward.
Oh my goodness! Who is this handsome young man?
But things started getting wrong when she started to leave, and as a last birthday wish, she requests to see the Krabby Patty secret formula. Krabs gives in, hands Plankton's grandmother the bottle, and they take pictures. But without a warning, the grandmother spouted a jetpack and took off. Plankton thinks that he will share the success with his granny, but she betrays him and kicks him away. Luckily, it was easy to get the formula back, as she fell asleep with it. And Squidward's love stories that we just mentioned brings me into this next episode, where Plankton had a interesting attempt to get the formula, and this is in the flower pot. Right at the start of the episode, he pretends that he wants to see the world with Karen, and so is moving away from the Chum Bucket. Krabs doesn't believe him, but Plankton's house is demolished in front of his eyes. They celebrate and soon realize that it has been replaced with another store, the Flower Pot Florist. Krabs runs to have a good relationship with the owner, not wanting a repeat of Plankton. He meets Petunia and doesn't realize that it was Plankton in a disguise. SpongeBob leaves the store and Squidward falls in love with the owner. Plankton plays his role well and really gets into being a florist with his slogan, "Power to the flower." But Plankton is Plankton and sells exploding flowers in disguise to Mr. Krabs. But before that plan goes into action, Plankton realizes that being a florist is now his new dream and runs to collect flowers back from the Krusty Krab before they explode. With a minute left, he almost succeeds, but is interrupted by Squidward, who professes his love. The flowers explode, exploding Plankton, and making the end of his florist dreams. I think this was initially an attempt to get the secret formula, but this just backfired. While Plankton tried to create art with flowers, he would steal an art piece for the formula in the episode Fiasco. The episode begins with Mr. Krabs and Spongebob trying to create a commercial for the Krusty Krab, but their ideas don't seem to be good, leaving both of them depressed. Squidward then watches a customer destroy a set of Krabby Patties and exclaims that it was an art style of a famous artist called Fiasco. Although initially Krabs planned to throw it away, he saw this as an opportunity to make money, and so tried to take the artwork from Squidward. They argue over who really owns it, but Farfael Brandbridge, an art evaluator, comes in and declares the work to be authentic. This makes the piece a national treasure, meaning that neither Mr. Krabs nor Squidward owns it. Mr. Krabs allows people to view it in his restaurant for free, provided they each order 2 Krabby Patties each. Later, Plankton sees this artwork and mistakes it for garbage. Planning to reverse engineer the recipe, he steals it. Police officers immediately chase him and dog him in every step of the way. When he inevitably loses, he's baffled as to why the police are chasing him.
What's with the police? It's just a bag of garbage.
Plankton then goes to SpongeBob's house and demands an explanation as to why the police are after him. SpongeBob then explains what he stole is in fact a priceless work of art, which gives Plankton the idea to sell the art piece and declares SpongeBob and Gary as accomplices to his crime. Enraged by these accusations, SpongeBob confronts Plankton about this, and as they start to argue, Patrick suddenly barges in, clearly chewing something. It's revealed that he ate the artwork, which he mistook for
a fiasco.
Much to SpongeBob and Plankton's horror, even after evading the people after them, Plankton loses the formula thanks to Patrick's stupidity. Speaking of the cops, we can't forget the time that Plankton was arrested for stealing the formula in the episode Call the Cops. The episode begins with Plankton getting chased around by Krabs and SpongeBob with the formula in his hands. He's caught by a police officer who arrests him for stealing, claiming that no one is innocent. The formula becomes evidence as the officer takes it and Plankton away. Without the formula, the patties would have to be made with just chum, which makes everyone leave. Ironically, to take drastic measures, Krabs and SpongeBob go to the department to steal the formula back. Plankton gets another shot at stealing the formula by tricking Patrick, his cellmate, but both him and Krabs arrive at the same time, and they fight it out. In the end, Plankton, Krabs, SpongeBob, and Patrick all get arrested, and the episode leaves Plankton still formula-less. Even future employees of the Krusty Krab must be warned about Plankton. And that brings us to the training video. This episode traces Mr. Krab's success with the Krusty Krab, as well as all the information for new employees and what they'll need. It has 7 parts, from humble beginning, the Krusty Krab today, training, personal hygiene, your workstation, interfacing with your boss, and finally, emergency situation. The last part is particularly for what to do when Plankton tries to steal the formula. In it, Plankton has fitted a Krabby Patty with robotic legs, making it look like a spider. He then rides it and tries to get out of the Krusty Krab, but the robot is just not fast enough, and Plankton once again is launched out of the Krusty Krab. But you see, Call the Cops wasn't the only time Plankton was arrested, and we can see this in the episode Jailbreak. The episode begins with the narrator explaining the Bikini Bottom jail, mainly its newest member, Plankton,
and currently of that little miscreant, Plankton,
known as prison number 655321. The warden lets all the prisoners out, including Plankton, and he hears SpongeBob calling him out, who wants to know why he is present. SpongeBob explains that he was secretly hired by Mr. Krabs to secretly work at the jail every weekend in order to watch over Plankton, as another job in the Krusty Krab. Plankton, though, does not like that idea, but the prison warden tells him to quiet down. Hilariously, though, he turns out to be quite the fan favorite among the criminals, who all rally behind him. Obviously, in true Plankton fashion, he hatches a plan to get the formula, but SpongeBob overhears their plan and reports it to Mr. Krabs. In the meantime, Plankton helps everyone escape jail, and they go to the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob notices Plankton and all of his cellmates preparing to invade the restaurant, but Mr. Krabs says that they are ready for them. Plankton yells out to his cellmates to bring him the formula, and they begin breaking down the door while using a whale cellmate as a battering ram. They successfully break in, and the whale prisoner opens the safe. Mr. Krabs urges Plankton not to get it, but he doesn't listen. As Plankton heads towards the formula, the curtain rises, and the entire Bikini Bottom police force emerges from it. Mr. Krabs reveals that he knew of Plankton's attempted break-in, and had enough time to hide the entire police force in his safe. The police force then takes Plankton and the rest of his cellmates back to jail, but somehow Plankton is honored as the entire Krusty Krab falls apart at the end of the episode. But now, let's go way back for a minute to the first season of the show, in an episode called Culture Shock. In this episode, the famous Krusty Krab no longer is famous, with profits being down way too much that month. To counter this, Squidward proposes hosting a talent show, with him as the host.
No, wait! A talent show with your host, me.
Though he just wanted to make himself a star. He manages to convince Mr. Krabs, and later that evening, the Krusty Krab is packed. Among the audience attending the show are Patrick and SpongeBob's parents. Among the acts of SpongeBob, Gary, and Pearl comes Plankton, being a magician called the Amazing Plankton. He plans to make a Krabby Patty disappear before the audience's eyes, but of course, he tries to run off with Patty. Much to Krabs' dismay, he catches him and takes the Patty back, but at least this time, Plankton's allowed to leave with his dignity intact. In this next one, Plankton would have gotten the formula, had it not backfired on him. In the episode The Krusty Bucket, Plankton is seen stealing Krabs' hair, as he gets a hair sample from Mr. Krabs while he's showering. He then races back to the Chum Bucket, where he combines the sample with one of his antennae to create the SpongeBob version of Frankenstein, Plank Crab. Plank Crab already had created a plan to steal the formula, and ends up gaining control of the entire restaurant due to his hearty handshake. He uses the handshake on Plankton too, tricking him and kicking him out of the restaurant, horrifying them both. Inside, Plank Crab runs everything perfectly, and not being able to handle it, the two former bosses team up. After multiple failed attempts, they give up and apply to be managers at the new Krusty Bucket, but Plank Crab makes them managers of the bathroom. They fight while doing their jobs, and this makes Plank Crab so angry that he split. The two sides of Plank Crab shake hands in order to have a clean fight, and both melt from how good their handshake is. It was an amazing plan, if I do say so myself, but sadly, Plank Crab's reign ended without Plankton knowing the formula. Speaking of Krabs and Plankton teaming up, this next episode almost gave Plankton the formula for the exact same reason, in the Chum Caverns. The episode begins with Mr. Krabs tripping on a loose floorboard in his office. He uncovers it to reveal the secret formula. Plankton this whole time had been watching it from a long telescope that reached into Mr. Krabs' office, and went to get it by caving underground. But he ends up getting trapped in a cave with beautiful scenery. Recognizing the business opportunity, Plankton planned to set up his restaurant at this location, drawing customers with the heavenly environment. At that moment, cave dwellers appear, but Plankton tames them with his whip, making them his new employees. Later that day, Mr. Krabs discovers that Plankton has more customers by his cave, and decides to go down there to try to sell Krabby Patties. Plankton is mad about this though, and decides to get his revenge by trapping Mr. Krabs underground. The two end up fighting to get each other trapped. They end up both getting stuck though, and regret their pointless feud. The pair decide to work together if they ever get out, and soon SpongeBob comes to save them. But here's where Plankton kills his chance on his own. Plankton goes back on his word to travel above ground to steal the secret formula, but when he reaches it, the hole he created causes a chain reaction that causes him to fall back down. Only if he could have kept his promise. But that wasn't the only time that Krabs was sweet to Plankton, as seen in the episode Truth or Square. This episode is one of the biggest celebrations for the Krusty Krab. It's 117th anniversary. SpongeBob arrives at the Krusty Krab, where Mr. Krabs reminds commands them to keep a close eye on all the doors and entrances, including the air vents. He explains that SpongeBob needs to make sure that Plankton does not sneak in during the 77th year anniversary celebration. Meanwhile, at the Chum Bucket, Plankton spoke with Karen about how he's been a failure for 50 years of business, while Mr. Krabs has been nothing but successful. In order to redeem himself and finally get his hands on the Krabby Patty secret formula, Plankton decides that he'll sneak into the Krusty Krab, while the employees and Mr. Krabs are distracted by the festivities, and steal the formula. The Krusty crew go into the freezer to get one last decoration for the celebration, and promptly are locked in. When they finally make it out through the air vents, SpongeBob brings the customer back with a song.
Oh, Krusty Krab, oh, Krusty Krab.
In the meantime, Plankton sees that the Krusty Krab is empty, giving him the perfect getaway with the formula. But he gets thrown around as hungry customers fill the restaurant. But in the chaos, he's unfortunately caught by Mr. Krabs. Mentioning that he was in a good mood, Krabs agrees to not launch him out, and instead blows him into a balloon, kicking him out that way. This next one, though, was strange, as the formula was not kept in its usual safe, but instead in a safety deposit box in the episode The Great Patty Capper. The episode starts with the curtains opening to SpongeBob going into the Krusty Krab freezer and finding out they've ran out of Krabby Patties. So he and Mr. Krabs try to make more, but cannot remember the recipe. So Mr. Krabs gives SpongeBob the key to the vault in which the recipe is hidden, and he, along with Patrick, board a train to the bank for the safety deposit box. Sometime during this ride, the key to the box is stolen, and SpongeBob and Patrick must find the thief. It's later revealed that Plankton does indeed have the key. SpongeBob and Patrick chase Plankton through a wild goose chase, the coaches, the Tinder, and the locomotive, before Plankton separates the train by disconnecting everything, leaving the duo in its cabin. As the two try to stop the train, Patrick suddenly breaks its brake, causing it to go out of control. This whole situation stalls the chase, letting Plankton get the formula. He is caught by Krabs, but still manages to get away from him. Just as he thought that he held the world in his hands, Plankton is stopped by the train crashing into the wall next to him and getting squashed underneath. So much for the greatest chase in the show. But all of this doesn't mean that Plankton does not care about his business, as seen in the episode Bucket Sweet Bucket. In the beginning of the episode, Plankton is tired of the Chum Bucket's lack of business, so he attempts to remodel it and fails due to his size. Hatching a plan, he gets SpongeBob and Patrick to help remodel, and soon he realizes that they have both done everything wrong and breaks down sobbing about his failure. Considering SpongeBob and Patrick's heart, this only attracts their loyalty towards him to make the Chum Bucket a success. Soon after seeing their progress, Squidward criticizes them and tells them that they are not painting correctly. He joins in and paints different, unexpected art on the front of the restaurant, and when Squidward officially joins the team, Plankton only makes his sob story sound worse, which causes them to start replacing every part of the Chum Bucket with parts from the Krusty Krab, which leads Plankton to slide into the safe and get his hands on the formula, only to discover that Krabs had replaced it with a to-do list. The real formula was inside Mr. Krabs, who had gone on vacation and took his most prized possession with him. Once again, Plankton went through all that trouble for literally nothing. But let's not forget about the time that Plankton accidentally helped someone else steal the secret formula. His actions in the Sponge Out of Water movie is what really set the whole movie's plot in motion. Right at the beginning, once the introductions were given, Plankton flies in and drops a jar of tartar sauce on the Krusty Krab, calling himself Air Plankton, and the Krusty Krab crew then becomes soldiers. A food fight ensues. Plankton crashes but comes back with a tank instead. When the crew defeats the tank as well, Plankton raises up in a 12-foot tall robot of himself, with him being the pilot of this ginormous thing. He uses this to smash into the restaurant, but quickly runs out of gas. But that doesn't mean that he ran out of ideas, tricking Krabs into taking what he claims was his last cent. Turns out he actually hid himself inside it. Once in the safe, he gets his hands on the formula, but in the process, he triggers the lockdown sequence that Mr. Krabs had within his safe. SpongeBob and and Plankton fight over the formula, with Krabs being locked outside his own restaurant. But suddenly, the formula vanishes, having been stolen by Burger Beard, a pirate. It caught everyone by surprise, including Plankton, who after all of this, who still remained without the formula, even after the gang manages to get it back at the end of the movie. But let's go back to the first season again, to one of the first times that Plankton actually got away with getting the formula. The episode starts with the Krusty Krab going on lockdown, as Plankton stole a Krabby Patty by cutting a hole in the wall. He actually manages to get away, and Spongebob is tasked with finding him. He chases him all over Bikini Bottom, even flying on one instance. Plankton then manipulates Spongebob by giving back the secret formula and a sob story to go along with it. Spongebob feels bad for him, however, and befriends him, truly believing that he's changed. Krabs, however, isn't so easily fooled, and while the duo is at the movies, he tells Spongebob to check Plankton's pockets. Of course, he finds a Krabby Patty, and after trying to keep up his sob story, Plankton grabs the Krabby Patty again and tries to run away through the screen at the theater. It's implied he got away, that is, until Mr. Krabs opens the screen and reveals that there are only concrete walls behind them. Plankton is smashed against the wall, along with his beloved Krabby Patty beside him. By now, everyone knows that there has been a feud between Mr. Krabs and Plankton for decades, and the show finally decided to give us some lore in the episode Friend or Foe. And right off the bat, the episode starts with Plankton strolling into the Krusty Krab in a cake. He makes balloons pop around him as he launches the lower half of the cake onto the safe. It explodes, giving Plankton free access to the formula. He gets it and tries to escape on a small rocket off the cake, but SpongeBob catches him just in time, spraying him with condiments. This instance prompts Krabs to tell everyone the story of him and Plankton. He reveals that they were once best friends when they were babies.
There was a time when Plankton and I were best friends.
Until grade school, the other kids picked on Plankton, and when Mr. Krabs tried to stand up for his friend, they would pick on him too. See, Mr. Krabs grew up poor, not having any money. He literally had to wear rags to school. But when he discovered money, it became an instant obsession. But even then, Krabs spent it on Plankton. When Krabs cuts to the present, SpongeBob reveals that he actually got back the formula while Krabs was telling the story. Turns out, the duo poisoned their first customer and fought over the recipe, sparking the war between them that will entertain generations. In the end, Plankton only got a piece of the formula, which said a pinch of chum. This ultimately led him to make the Chum Bucket as it is today. Plankton did try to replicate the recipe, but failed miserably, causing him to chase the formula from that point forward. It all led to the making of this video. So if you're liking it so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Karen causes the duo to reminisce about their friendship. They hug, but it was yet another ploy from Plankton to steal the formula. Technically, the episode ends with Plankton having the formula, but it's heavily implied that he lost it at some point. Well, Plankton tried to renovate the Chum Bucket in the last one. Krabs tried to renovate the Krabby Patty in Goodbye Krabby Patty. The episode starts with SpongeBob coming up with the idea to sell frozen patties for their convenience. Krabs steals the idea, calling it the Frozen Krabby Patty. The new face of the frozen Krabby Patties ends up being Patrick, and the patties get more filler to create more profit. The enormous success of this product causes Mr. Krabs to fire SpongeBob from his fry cook job, and immediately rehires him to work at the Krusty Krab Museum. This museum documents the complete history of the Krusty Krab, complete with animatronic versions of the employees and merchandise, which includes the frozen Krabby Patties themselves. Later on, Plankton comes by and tries to take the formula, but he's confused when the bored SpongeBob doesn't do anything to try to stop him. SpongeBob tells him that there is no point in stopping him, because all the formulas in the restaurant are blank souvenirs. Plankton then asks for a frozen Krabby Patty, which SpongeBob nonchalantly gives. Plankton then runs off with the frozen patty. However, Plankton doesn't realize that the patties are made of sand, which was the filler that Krabs used to get even more profit. Even though this was one of his most successful schemes, it unfortunately did not not end up well for him. But even that previous one pales in comparison to the time that Mr. Krabs offers to sell the formula to Plankton. The episode follows the construction of a highway called Shelly Superhighway, which SpongeBob is against because it's set to go right through jellyfish fields. SpongeBob is conflicted on whether this would be a good thing or a bad thing, but what he doesn't realize is that the road goes over the Krusty Krab, right to the Chum Bucket, as per Plankton's plans. Despite SpongeBob and Patrick's best efforts, the superhighway is unfortunately built. It destroys Krabs' business, with no one even having entry access to the once famous restaurant. Defeated, Mr. Krabs says that he will initiate Plan Z9er, which involves him giving away the formula to Plankton and closing the Krusty Krab forever. Just as Krabs is about to sell the formula to Plankton, the jellyfish invade the Chum Bucket, causing Mr. Krabs to flee as Plankton is grabbed and stung by the angry jellyfish. The jellyfish continue to attack the city for 3 whole days, and the news continuously broadcasts coverage about it. Seeing an opportunity, SpongeBob uses this chance to convince the Bikini Bottomites to destroy the highway and restore jellyfish fields. The plan works, and the superhighway is destroyed, along with Plankton's plans. Poor guy. But that somehow wasn't the only time that Krabs wanted to sell the secret formula to Plankton, and it somehow gets even worse in the episode called Hankering. The episode begins with Mr. Krabs' stomach growling as one of the customers of the Krusty Krab starts to get worried. He closes the restaurant and goes somewhere by going under a taxi, while SpongeBob follows him to give him a nickel that he dropped. It turns out that Mr. Krabs has gone outside of the Bikini Bottom to the slop pail, where he orders chum. SpongeBob sees that Mr. Krabs is eating chum and likes it, but he does not understand why. Mr. Krabs tells him a story about how during one of his Navy days, he was forced to eat chum due to it being the only food left, and upon eating it, he grew to love it. SpongeBob promises to keep this a secret, and afterwards, the slop pail closes as the owner of the restaurant, Sal, wants to become a movie star. This leaves Mr. Krabs with no chum to eat other than from the Chum Bucket. After multiple failed attempts to get it, he gives up and goes to Plankton, who promised him a lifetime of chum in exchange for the formula. When Plankton takes the formula, he uses the Chum Bucket glove to prevent Mr. Krabs from taking his chum. However, Mr. Krabs gets out and attacks him, causing the formula to sink into the chum. Plankton then decides to swim inside of the chum to obtain the formula, but SpongeBob has a better idea and tells Mr. Krabs that he should eat all the chum so he can reach the formula first. Mr. Krabs follows through with this plan and ends up getting the formula, but in the process, he becomes extremely overweight, and this also causes him to lose his decades-long appetite for chum, and even accidentally eats Plankton. But now, let's go to the time where Mr. Krabs completely lost his grip on reality, in the episode Plankton Paranoia, and it flips the usual formula on its head. Instead of Plankton plotting against Krabs, it's Krabs who starts plotting against Plankton, or at least the Plankton that he thinks he sees everywhere. The episode opens at the Krusty Krab, where Mr. Krabs rallies SpongeBob and Squidward for Plankton's daily attempt at stealing the Krabby Patty secret formula. SpongeBob is assigned to guard the door, while Squidward naps, but after 3 hours, Plankton never arrives. The silence rattles Krabs, who begins to see Plankton in every shadow. The next day, Krabs' paranoia spirals. He bans pockets, uses a reef blower to strip clothes from customers, and even accuses Old Man Walker of smuggling patties under his hat. Soon, he's banning mothers with babies and driving away the entire lunch rush. Eventually, he boards up the restaurant, fires SpongeBob, Squidward, and Sandy, and sets up the place with traps, convinced everyone is secretly working for Plankton. Later that night, Krabs hides under the register boat with the formula strapped to his neck. He hallucinates cups, eyeballs, and even his own reflection transforming into demonic Planktons, including a giant horned monster version. Things hit a breaking point when he sees SpongeBob, Squidward, Patrick, Pearl, Mrs. Puff, and Old Man Jenkins sneaking into the Chum Bucket, which convinces him his entire world has betrayed him. Moments later, SpongeBob knocks on the door, claiming Plankton had kidnapped Squidward. Pretending to help, Krabs secretly cooks booby-trapped Krabby Patties filled with spikes and fireworks. Together, he and SpongeBob head to the Chum Bucket, where Plankton reveals Squidward is tied up, only to press a button that unleashes decorations and confetti. party. It's actually a surprise party celebrating the anniversary of Plankton's first ever formula heist. Krabs is touched and reluctantly enjoys the party with everyone else. But when the guests leave, Plankton finds the formula left behind, only to discover it's strapped to a stick of dynamite. The Chum Bucket explodes in the final gag, with Krabs' paranoia coming full circle. Now, everyone knows that Karen is an amazing wife to Plankton, while he, on the other hand, is a complete jerk to her. And this would ultimately cost him one of the closest times he's ever gotten to the real formula, in the episode Single Cell Anniversary. In this episode, Plankton learns that it was his and Karen's wedding anniversary, and that Karen got him a copy of the Krabby Patty secret formula for his present, but he still couldn't have it until he returns a favor and gets her a present. Plankton then teams up with Spongebob and Patrick to learn a serenade for Karen as a present. Plankton walks into the Chum Bucket and starts singing the song,
Oh, my Karen.
Karen cries when it's over, and then starts uploading the Krabby Patty secret formula. Plankton then tells SpongeBob that by wooing his computer wife, he has doomed the Krusty Krab and put that said restaurant in grave peril. SpongeBob is shocked at this, so he unplugs what he thinks is Karen, but is really just the coffee maker. Karen finally uploads the formula, but she starts crying again. This causes her to break down and short out, leaving Plankton still without the secret formula, making him confused. She then shuts down, and the EMILP, Emergency Mother-in-Law Program, uploads and starts nagging, saying that Karen should have married an ATM. If only Plankton was a better husband. SpongeBob is perhaps the most loyal employee who protects the formula, with his heart and soul. But even he helped Plankton get the formula in the episode Surf and Turf. The episode starts with Sandy in her tree dome, making a ship in a bottle. She tests the cannons, only to have the ship in the bottle get destroyed. She throws it out, while SpongeBob comes in, drinking the bottle, complimenting on how it was what he needed. Sandy tells him how she's in a desperate situation for a ship in a bottle contest tomorrow. Wanting to help his best friend, SpongeBob takes out the formula from inside of him, throws out the paper, and gives the bottle to Sandy. However, SpongeBob realizes his mistake, goes to an airport nearby, gets on the plane, onto a cable car, into a devilish mountain. Inside is Plankton with the formula, but unfortunately, SpongeBob takes back the formula and goes back to the tree dome. Never knew Plankton had a house on a devil mountain, but even that doesn't help Plankton. Now, let's go back to Plankton's own plans, and we're gonna look at one of his most elaborate plans in the episode Inside Job. In the beginning of the episode, Plankton tries to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula by Karen launching him into Mr. Krabs' brain, but he ends up accidentally going into SpongeBob's brain instead. Plankton goes into the optical system to see how to make Krabby Patties, but SpongeBob cannot see because of Plankton and uses inedible cleaning utensils as ingredients. Plankton does not realize this until he decides to go to the audio system and listen to the formula, restoring SpongeBob's sight. SpongeBob then is horrified at his inedible creation and thinks he forgot how to make a Krabby Patty, so he asks Mr. Krabs to tell him the secret formula again. But by the time he gets in front of him, Plankton is already using SpongeBob's eardrums, so SpongeBob cannot hear Mr. Krabs, and so Krabs uses a megaphone to help, which blows Plankton away. Plankton then tries to go to the command central, or the brain, to learn about the formula. He looks at SpongeBob's secrets and finds that the formula is in his heart. He slides down the vertebrae to get down there, and when he sucks the information out of SpongeBob's heart, he turns into a clone of him. That's right, Plankton becomes SpongeBob, from appearance to personality, while maintaining his own voice and single eye style. Even though he knows the formula, now having SpongeBob's personality, he refuses to share it as that would be stealing. Karen then turns his mind-reading hat into a propeller to fly Plankton out of SpongeBob and get back home. But things don't still go right for Plankton, as he accidentally bumps into Patrick on the way home. This turns him into Patrick's clone, and he's unable to tell Karen the recipe, as he is now as stupid as Patrick. It really goes to show how much of SpongeBob's personality is actually connected to the formula. But too bad for Plankton. Speaking of which, I can't forget about the pineapple invasion episode. In In this episode, Plankton gets his hands on the formula twice, but first, he strolled into the Krusty Krab with a skunk named Mr. Stinky. The customers fawn over the skunk, thinking he's a cat, but Plankton intentionally sets Mr. Stinky off by scaring him with a bee. And this doesn't affect Plankton as he doesn't have a nose, but the others are not so lucky. All of the customers, Squidward, Spongebob, and Mr. Krabs, frantically leave the Krusty Krab due to the sting. Mr. Krabs knows that Plankton is inside of the Krusty Krab alone, and takes one of Spongebob's arms to use as a nose plug before heading inside. In Mr. Krabs' office, Plankton is surrounding the safe with dynamite, and the detonation reveals that the safe has another safe inside. Before he could get away with the formula, Mr. Krabs crushes Plankton with his fists, and Spongebob, with one of his own legs plugging his nose, tosses Plankton out the window with a spatula. Worried that he will return, Mr. Krabs wants Spongebob to take the secret formula home with him, while he makes adjustments to his safe. However, the two of them do not know that Plankton is listening to everything with his severed antenna, and thus, Spongebob's house becomes Plankton's biggest target. The next morning, Spongebob talks to Gary, entrusting the safety of the secret formula to him. He has several failed attempts, but doesn't give up. He finally manages to get inside of Spongebob's house by distracting Gary with a fake cutout of himself out the window. But that doesn't last long, as he gets caught soon after and fights with Gary. Gary beats him up until Plankton escapes into Gary's shell, thinking the secret formula is inside. But he's not left alone in there, as Gary's eyeball chases Plankton through the maze within his shell. When Spongebob comes home, he is horrified by the condition of his house, but still glad that the secret formula is safe where he left it. Where did he keep the formula? On top of his television in plain sight. Meanwhile, Plankton makes it to the center of the shell and grabs what he thinks is the secret formula, but it's actually just an old grocery list. But in the end, a vet thankfully rescues Plankton from inside of the shell. Perhaps the episode with the most number of attempts in it has to be in Plankton Retires. Right off the bat, Plankton tries 5 different times to get the formula in various ways, but he's always caught by Mr. Krabs, who foils his plans. He finally seems to get fed up with constantly failing, and so unplugs Karen, and Spongebob follows as he's not convinced that he really did lose his biggest rival. They follow him as he gets a room in a senior home, dressing differently and apparently setting up a new life. Once Plankton figured out that Krabs had been following him, he revealed his evil plan. The Plankton that pair had been following was a robot, and the real Plankton was in the Krusty Krab stealing the formula. The real Plankton blows up the safe again, and just as he was about to get away with it, Mr. Krabs appears and takes it from him. Turns out, Krabs had seen this coming, and had sent robot versions of himself and Spongebob to Dolesville. Meanwhile, Robot Krabs, Robot Spongebob, and Robot Plankton are enjoying their holiday time with each other. Though it seemed like a foolproof plan, with extensive thought into it, Krabs is always the one step ahead of the supervillain. Speaking of Plankton's evil intentions, he once made a spatula to do his bidding, in the episode Evil Spatula. The episode begins with Plankton faxing himself to the Krusty Krab, and while Krabs and Spongebob are busy, Plankton then starts phase 2 by sawing a bit of Spongebob's spatula, then places it beside the grill. This causes the spatula to be broken when Spongebob tries to use it. He tries everything to fix it, but Mr. Krabs just tells him to get a new spatula. He then goes to Harvey's Spatula Emporium, where Plankton waits. Plankton then offers Spongebob his own special spatula with magical powers, which Spongebob quickly agrees to. They arrive at the Chum Bucket, where Plankton shows off a room full of spatulas and introduces Spongebob to the majestic Sizzle Master. The spatula has a receiver, with the other side being held by Plankton, to give off the illusion that the spatula talks. Plankton tries to get put on grill duty while earning Spongebob's trust, but Spongebob is really careful about the grill and manages to foil the spatula's plans. It does, however, gain Spongebob's trust by helping in every aspect of his life. Finally, Spongebob gives the spatula grill duty, allowing Plankton to execute the next phase of his plan. He intentionally burns the patties and then requests the secret formula to make more. Spongebob gives in and goes to the safe to get the paper. Krabs stops him as he realizes that it is Plankton behind the spatula and reads out the wrong ingredients disguised as the formula. Plankton actually makes this recipe, only for the Chum Bucket to blow up as a result. Plankton never passes up an opportunity to try to steal the secret formula, and we can clearly see this again in the episode It fight came from Goo Lagoon. This time, it was a giant purple goo ball that spouted out of a volcanic crack in the bottom of the lagoon. Sandy tries to explain to Spongebob, Patrick, Squidward, and the Bikini Bottomites, and Plankton that the bubbles are made of highly toxic super goo that are safe when stable, but it is in their nature to be very unstable, and if popped, they can coat a large portion of Bikini Bottom in purple goo. Plankton hears this and unveils a multi-purpose shit, which he uses to find the crack where the bubbles are produced, and make a bubble large enough to cover the entire city. He succeeds in his quest, widening the big crack enough for such a bubble. Even though SpongeBob, Sandy, and Patrick try their best to catch Plankton, they fail and he destroys Sandy's submarine. To rub salt on the wound, SpongeBob attempts to send the bubble away, via creating a massive bubble bruiser. The attempt, however, backfires and allows Plankton to demand the formula. Krabs must fulfill this, or Plankton will pop the bubble. He gets his way, but on receiving the formula, he pops the bubble anyway, causing the entire city to get covered in purple goo. Plankton gets away and proceeds to read the formula on his ship. It reads just one ingredient. He quickly realizes that the formula is fake, and when he pulls down the paper, it reveals a stick of dynamite. The dynamite stick explodes, causing his ship to crash into the roof of the Chum Bucket. Plankton rarely works together with other people, but in the episode Captain Pipsqueak, he leads a team of villains and has better success than usual. The episode begins at the Chum Bucket, where Plankton yet again fails to steal the secret formula. He later watches TV and gets the idea to join the League of Evil. Plankton then goes and finds their secret lair, which happens to be accessible by going through a dumpster. Once there are many waiting to join the force in a subtle way. They try out, but fail to enter the room. Plankton says he, for all intents and purposes, really wants to steal the formula for world domination. He goes on to commit acts of evil to gain their trust and succeeds. This causes them to rally behind him, believing they can dominate the world too if they were on Plankton's team. They ambush the Krusty Krab together, catching everyone off guard. Dirty Bubble, one of the villains, traps SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs as a distraction. Plankton steals the formula, but Man Ray finds out the formula is just a recipe for a sandwich. They get disappointed, give the formula back to Mr. Krabs, and kick Plankton out of the force. Even one of the villains got to know what the formula is after trying in just one episode. Poor Plankton has been trying to do that for decades. Speaking of Plankton using others to steal the formula, let's go to a time where he used his own pet to carry out his plan. It was in the episode Spot Returns. Plankton and Karen realize that their pet Spot is pregnant. Karen explains to him that the food-rich environments, such as the one Plankton provided Spot, causes amoeba to reproduce. Plankton then starts panicking, while Spot is generating other amoebas. The amoebas destroy various things in the lab, leading Plankton to attempt to get rid of them. He takes SpongeBob's help to sell the puppies to various citizens of Bikini Bottom, but the puppies steal items from their owner and return it to Plankton, who immediately gets an idea. He's about to start training them, but Karen is still rebooting, and Plankton finds it difficult to do that alone, before calling SpongeBob to train his pets. As soon as the training starts, SpongeBob shows him how to do innocent things, such as sitting and barking. All the while, Plankton teaches them how to do other things for evil purposes, such as opening a door and catching a grenade. After hours of training, Plankton introduces SpongeBob to the puppies: the Demolition Puppy, the Acrobat Puppy, the Identical Twin Puppies, and the Comedic Relief Puppy. SpongeBob realizes the plan, but is quickly trapped, while Plankton tries to open the bottle with the secret formula. SpongeBob uses the puppies to escape and takes back the formula, foiling another one of Plankton's plans. But of course, that wasn't the only time he tried to use his own family, as the episode Plankton's Army proves. This episode takes place on the 25th anniversary of Plankton trying to steal the formula. Plankton tries again with a robot and a dollar, and as usual, he is stopped by Mr. Krabs. He sadly returns to the Chum Bucket, and Karen suggests hiring some henchmen to help him out with his army. And after failing to recruit some thugs at a nightclub, Plankton remembers that he has thousands of relatives across the sea. Imagining them all to be evil geniuses like he is, he invites them all to the Chum Bucket. However, when they arrive, he sees that they are all dim-witted hillbillies, and realizes that he's been away from home longer than he thought. But he goes with the plan anyway, with the promise of root beer as a reward. After After trapping Mr. Krabs and Squidward in a toilet, they open the safe containing the Krabby Patty secret formula. Plankton takes it out of the safe, and Mr. Krabs begs him not to read it, telling him that there are some things in this world that aren't meant for mortal eyes. Plankton didn't care to listen, and reads out the formula with 4 ingredients: a pinch of salt, 3 teaspoons of chopped onion, a cup of love, and finally, 4 heaping pounds of freshly ground plankton. This understandably horrifies Plankton, who runs away with his relatives following him. Turns out, Krabs once again saw this coming, and decided to switch the formula for a fake one. Plankton does, however, figure this out though, causing him to try again in the rest of the seasons. The next one on my list actually costs Mr. Krabs' formula, and Plankton does bring it back to the Chum Bucket in an interesting way. In the episode, Question is Buried in Time, Krabs gets the idea to start a time capsule. Multiple people contribute to this idea, with the last item being a copy of the secret formula. Naturally, this gets Plankton interested in this, and he hatches a plan to get the bottle inside. Plankton drills the capsule and gets the formula, but he gets caught in a misunderstanding involving Squidward, who steps on him on his way. This causes Plankton to swallow the bottle, giving him a bottle-shaped figure. The episode ends with Plankton on the toilet, trying to get it out of him. It's implied that he does get it out, but by then, the formula is so damaged, it's unreadable. That wasn't the only time Plankton swallowed the formula though, as he actually eats a Krabby Patty in the episode For Here or To Go. It starts with Mr. Krabs having an important announcement. It's the first annual bun seed counting contest. For anyone who correctly guesses how many seeds there are in the sesame seed jar, wins a free Krabby Patty. Several people make guesses, each more ridiculous than the last. The next contestant is Plankton, but before he can guess, Mr. Krabs grabs him by the antenna and takes him outside. Plankton claims it's unfair and calls the bogus business bureau on him. Agents burst through the roof, along with Agent Twerp, who tells Mr. Krabs that he must accept the guesses from all customers, no matter how annoying they are. Mr. Krabs, though, is adamant about refusing to let him guess, but when Twerp threatens to close down the Krusty Krab, he reluctantly agrees. Plankton uses technology to scan the jar, and guesses 500,301. His answer turns out to be correct, and he wins the Krabby Patty. Krabs tries to stall, and tries not to give it to Plankton, knowing that he will reverse engineer it, but he is forced to give it to him in the end. When the Krabby Patty is ready, Plankton wants it to go, but Mr. Krabs says that it must be dine in. Plankton stuffs the entire patty into his mouth, but Mr. Krabs tells him to swallow. Once he does, he's kicked out by Mr. Krabs into the Chum Bucket. Once home, Plankton climbs onto an operating table and tells Karen to remove the patty from his stomach right away, even declining anesthesia. Later, Mr. Krabs and Spongebob sadly watch the long line at the Chum Bucket. Suddenly, people rush out, sick from patties they say taste like stomach acid, aspirin, and carrots. The rest of the customers flee, and Plankton asks Karen what's going on. She tells him she followed orders, revealing that she focused on his stomach contents rather than the Krabby Patty ingredients. This error was the only thing between Plankton and his beloved formula. But did you know there was a time when Plankton made an entire band to steal the formula? In the episode Krabby Road. It starts with Plankton escaping jail and returning to the Chum Bucket, but he's also thrown out by Karen, who calls him a loser for never succeeding in his one mission. Plankton then hears SpongeBob singing about a Krabby Patty while censoring out the ingredients with noises. Plankton asks him to sing it uncensored, but SpongeBob mistakes this as Plankton wanting him to join the band, but he rolls with it in hopes of stealing the formula. The band also gets Patrick and Squidward as members. Plankton returns with band shirts, naming their band Plankton and the Patty Stealers. Despite this, they are still oblivious to Plankton's true intentions. The band's dreams come true when Mr. Krabs lets them play at the Krusty Krab after hours. Plankton immediately starts searching for the formula, while the rest of his band rehearses. SpongeBob notices this and soon realizes that the band was just another one of Plankton's crazy schemes and becomes furious. Plankton actually opens the formula, but isn't able to read it for himself as he tries to prove his innocence. The police come and arrest Plankton for his escape, but perhaps Perhaps one of Plankton's best ideas was to impersonate Sandy. In the episode, someone's in the kitchen with Sandy. Plankton tries to steal the patty served to Sandy at the start of the episode, and it leads to him getting an idea. Later, when Sandy returns to her tree dome, she goes in the bathroom, taking off her fur coat. Sandy is almost completely bald and pink at this point, but this doesn't faze Plankton. He steals the fur coat, puts it on, and goes to the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob is happy to see Sandy again, even believing Plankton's lies about why Sandy doesn't wear her suit anymore. Plankton leverages the situation, and he asks SpongeBob for Krabby Patty tips or information. After some short tips from SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs walks in through the door at the corner of the kitchen and declares that he is leaving the formula out in plain sight by setting it on a table. Plankton cheers happily in Sandy's fur coat, since stealing the formula is now much easier. But he is stalled by SpongeBob giving him an irritating lesson, where he has to put a bun on the exact same spot of the patty, but he is always off by a random amount. He gives up, steals the formula, and tries to escape. The real Sandy, though, enters the Krusty Krab and stops him in the nick of time. Unfortunately for Plankton, not even this idea worked out. This list would not be complete without talking about the time that Plankton switched lives with Mr. Krabs in the episode The Algae's Always Greener. After failing to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula once again, Plankton decides that he is tired of eating holographic meatloaf, believing Mr. Krabs to have more of a satisfying existence. He longs to switch lives with him. Karen conveniently points out that he had just invented a transmogridifier earlier and suggests to use it. Plankton takes her advice and later finds himself waking up as Mr. Krabs. Now, wearing Mr. Krabs' outfit, Plankton looks at his nameplate reading Mr. Plankton and realizes that he has successfully entered a universe where he is, in fact, successful. His first act is to have alternate universe SpongeBob SquarePants, now as his employee, present him with 2 Krabby Patties for bun inspection. He also switches the jobs of SpongeBob and Squidward, with SpongeBob becoming the cashier and Squidward becoming the fry cook. What he doesn't realize, however, is that Mr. Krabs is a completely different person in this universe, having life circumstances closer to those that Plankton had at the beginning of the episode. He is now simply known as Krabs. He's out to steal the formula, and much like Plankton used to, he's completely naked. The crew stops Krabs, but in the process of living as the new owner, Plankton realized that he hated it, and then he hits a button, making everything go back to normal. Too bad he didn't take the formula with him though. Womp womp. But even that pales in comparison to the time SpongeBob and Squidward throw out the formula in the episode Bottle Burglars. The episode begins with SpongeBob and Squidward cleaning Mr. Krabs' office, with Mr. Krabs telling them to watch over the formula. Meanwhile, Plankton is using an invisibility helmet to steal the formula, and ends up actually stealing it when Squidward accidentally throws it out with trash. SpongeBob and Squidward then look at the security footage to see what happened, and see that Plankton had indeed stole it. They devise a plan to steal the formula back. While Plankton fails to open the formula due to there being a 12-hour time lock on it, SpongeBob and Squidward go inside the Chum Bucket right when Plankton finishes watching his show and goes to bed. After SpongeBob makes sure that Plankton is asleep, they face many obstacles before eventually reaching the safe. However, when SpongeBob steps on a tile, he activates a trap which hurts Squidward. When they finally reach the safe, SpongeBob tries to take it, but this causes a rocket to take SpongeBob and Squidward and blast them out of the restaurant. Mr. Krabs comes back to the Krusty Krab, where SpongeBob and Squidward tell him that Plankton stole the formula. He gets very mad, but ends up stealing the formula back very easily by punching a hole through the safe outside the restaurant. Somehow, for all of his science knowledge, Plankton is never able to outsmart his mortal enemy. Perhaps he will be able to outsmart a baby version of Krabs though. Well, he certainly tries in the episode Goo Goo Gas. In here, Plankton gets the idea to turn Mr. Krabs into a baby when he hears a woman saying that she can take her baby's milk away from him and he can't do anything about it. Plankton then leads Mr. Krabs to a telephone booth by money where he sprays Goo Goo Gas on him, turning Mr. Krabs into a baby. SpongeBob finds baby Krabs and takes him away, but Plankton accidentally reveals to an overhearing SpongeBob that baby Krabs is actually Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob tries to take care of baby Krabs and only succeeds when he uses a stack of 20s. Meanwhile, Plankton sprays baby Krabs and SpongeBob, but Mr. Krabs is now an adult, and SpongeBob is a baby. Plankton sprays SpongeBob again, and now he's back to an adult. He realizes that he's using senior citizen spray. Plankton sprays everyone again, thinking that they'll now be too old bold to catch him. Once he steals a Krabby Patty, SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs pursue him slowly, but then trap him by knitting a net and calling over senior citizens to hit him one by one like a piñata. Plankton then realizes that there is one ingredient that he's missing to turn people into babies. He goes to the bargain mart where he buys baby powder and then goes back to complete the experiment. Using Karen as a test subject, he gets it to work. He then returns to the Krusty Krab and sprays all over the customers, including SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs, and they all remain stuck as babies for the rest of the episode. Plankton is grabbed and thrown around by the babies, but sees the formula sucked on by Baby Krabs. As he's about to get it though, Baby Krabs repeatedly slams the bottle on Plankton, who then comes back from underneath and realizes that he just got the formula. Just as he was about to make his getaway, he realizes that Baby SpongeBob had gotten ahead of his canister. The baby pulls the trigger, spraying Plankton, who now became so small he can't even be seen without a microscope. Turns out, he can't even win when everyone around him is a baby. As if switching lives wasn't enough, there is a time where Plankton made a Krabs robot in the episode Imitation Krabs. At the Krusty Krab, Plankton disguises himself as a robot salesman to get the Krabby Patty secret formula, presenting SpongeBob with an offer of $1 million if he reveals it. SpongeBob explains in no uncertain terms that the formula is property of Mr. Krabs and can only be shared with him.
Yes!
The Krabby Patty formula is the sole property of the Krusty Krab and is only to be discussed in part or in whole with its creator, Mr. Krabs. Duplication of this formula is punishable by law. Restrictions apply. Results may vary.
Enraged, Plankton bursts out of the robot and threatens SpongeBob with violence, only to be caught by Mr. Krabs and thrown out. This, of course, gives him another idea. He gets to work, making a Krabs robot that looks just like him. But when Plankton tests it out, it fails to fool Squidward. But he bribes Squidward into being silent. He then tries to get information out of SpongeBob. What follows is a ritual that goes on for 6.5 hours and consists of many bizarre and ridiculous feats, leaving Plankton worn out from the controlling robot crabs. After all of this, SpongeBob still won't discuss formula, causing Plankton to explode in anger at all of the things that he did, seemingly for nothing. However, SpongeBob explains that it simply must not be discussed out loud, and he holds up a bottle containing the formula in written form. But as he reaches out for the bottle, the real Mr. Krabs appears, and he gets in an argument with robot crabs, and the two try to convince SpongeBob that they are a genuine owner. Unable to handle the situation calmly, SpongeBob threatens both of them with a vat of tartar sauce until he gets some answers. He decides that the best way to weed out the imposter is to present the two with a quiz about the Krusty Krab. The first two questions are generic ones that anyone who has been to a restaurant could answer, and Robot Krabs answers them both correctly. The third and final question is one so complicated that not even the real Mr. Krabs can answer it, which causes SpongeBob to blast him with tartar sauce and rolls him out the door in a fry basket, convinced he's the imposter. Believing Robot Krabs to be the real Mr. Krabs, SpongeBob presents him with the formula, as Plankton laughs in victory. But then SpongeBob somehow destroys Robot Krabs by dropping a penny into its coin-operated self-destruct mechanism. With only 10 seconds until its detonation, he rushes to the Chum Bucket, but unfortunately, he's too late and it explodes before he even gets a chance to read the formula. As we get closer to the #1 spot, allow me to briefly talk about one other time where Plankton came closest to the formula. The episode Frozen Face Off is where everyone in Bikini Bottom participates in a warm sled race to win $1 million. But Plankton uses the distraction to go after the Krabby Patty secret formula. He sneaks off to the Krusty Krab just before the race begins and uses a robot as his replacement in the race. When the group returns after an eventful race, they find that the Krusty Krab has been destroyed and Plankton has stolen the formula. However, Plankton cannot get the bottle open. When Plankton expresses his frustration of not being able to open the bottle, Patrick stupidly opens the bottle, allowing Plankton to finally take the formula out. After everyone surrounds Plankton, he pretends to surrender and uses a pen to fly away out of the Chum Bucket. The group chases Plankton into a net trap that Plankton trapped them in above a grease pit, but he did not know about the snow mollusk that had been a part of the race. It frees the group and starts eating Patrick's jelly jelly beans. Plankton tries to escape, but the snow mollusk mistakes him for a jelly bean and eats him, dropping the secret formula. At the end, the formula is returned by Mr. Krabs in the process, with Karen showing no sympathy for Plankton. At the end of this list, for the last time that Plankton stole the secret formula, is none other than the legendary SpongeBob SquarePants movie. In it, Plankton initiates what he calls Plan Z in order to attempt to finally obtain the Krabby Patty secret formula. He steals King Neptune's crown, sends it into Shell City, and frames Krabs for the crimes. Neptune confronts Krabs about his stolen crown and is convinced of Krabs' guilt when a hungover SpongeBob smears him. Recovering from his hangover, SpongeBob promises Neptune that he will retrieve the crown from Shell City. Neptune freezes Krabs, telling SpongeBob to return it in 6 days or his boss will be executed. After the duo leave Bikini Bottom, Plankton actually steals the formula from the frozen crabs and uses it to start selling Krabby Patties. He distributes free helmets with the Krabby Patties that brainwash customers into doing Plankton's bidding. It leads to him taking over Bikini Bottom and hiring a hitman named Dennis to prevent SpongeBob and Patrick from returning the crown. We finally see Plankton achieve all of his dreams, but the story isn't over yet. Neptune arrives to execute Krabs, but SpongeBob and Patrick return with the crown just in time. Plankton drops a mind control helmet on Neptune and surrounds SpongeBob, Patrick, and Mindy with his army of slaves. But SpongeBob uses the Goofy Goober rock to free Neptune and the citizens of Bikini Bottom. As Plankton is arrested by the police, Neptune unfreezes Krabs, who appoint SpongeBob as the manager of Krusty Krab 2. That was every time that Plankton stole the secret formula. If you liked the video, make sure to smash the subscribe button for more.